talk show, Artist to Artist. We are so excited to be here, and we have a lot of firsts today. Our first guest and our first broadcast on A for Artistic online class site, Facebook. My name is Adele Shortino. I am the owner of A for Artistic and the host of Artist to Artist talk show. I'm also the editor of A for Artistic Quarterly e-magazine. We are thrilled to have you here, and we are so super excited to have Leslie Mullen as our first guest, and I am getting ready to bring her right on up on the screen. Just a second, here she is.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Leslie, how are you?
Adele, first off, thank you so much. I feel so honored to be your first guest here today. And I welcome everybody that's here. We're going to have so much fun. Yay.
Yes, we are going to have a nice group. We have Sandy from Alaska already waving at us. Nona. So the ladies are starting to come in. Angel is in here. So we're going to start. I just want to make sure that we are covering all the questions that everybody's been wanting to hear all about you, Leslie.
Yay.
So Leslie, let's start with, how long have you been creating art?
I was thinking about that, and I thought I really have been creating art since my childhood. I actually feel like I am one of those fortunate souls that came to this earth knowing what they wanted to do, and mine was art. And as I was growing up, I was told, quit talking with your hands, quit talking with your hands. Nobody can see what's in your head. And I view the world so three-dimensionally that I think everybody else thinks like this. And so after I was told, quit talking with your hands, I thought, how else can I express that? And so that led me into, as a child, drawing and painting, and then learning. When I was 5 years old, I learned to sew, and so you can see where that led me.
Yes.
So professionally, I've been making dolls for over 25 years. So that's
okay.
I've been a full-time artist for over 25 years. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And you work strictly from your studio, your home studio?
Yes, I have a home studio, and I work there. I just moved my studio home about 2.5 years ago, and I used to have a studio outside my home, and I actually love having my studio at home, and my cat loves having my studio at home too.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about our furry companions, huh? Well, Leslie, what motivates you to create these beautiful figurative art? What motivates you?
I actually love this question so much because I look at motivation as being an external process, external things that come to us, influences, experiences, that type of thing. And motivation can be practical, like how am I going to make money? How am I going to do this kind of thing? And then on the other side, so we have motivational, the other side is inspirational. And inspirational, if you've ever taken a class with me or you know me, I believe that the dolls or whatever are already made, and they come through me, and I'm just the conduit that happens to have that talent or technique to be able to do it. So I feel like you need a balance of both inspiration and motivation to make things work. I know that when I'm in my creative mode, I have to kind of push motivation out of the way, because motivation is those external things like, will this be good enough? Will people like it? Is it going to sell? So if I stand in my inspiration while I'm creating, the piece really comes from my soul. And I feel that, I've actually had experience where if I am really working in a motivated state, then the piece doesn't sell. It just doesn't have my voice in it. It doesn't have my soul in it. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I mean, I think we all go through that, and maybe we start working on something, and we keep pushing through it. It doesn't feel right, but we keep pushing through it. And, you know, sometimes it happens, but all of your pieces are just phenomenal, Leslie. And they show you. That's what they show. They show you. Well, that's great. Let me check to see if anybody has any questions real quick. Oh, we're getting a lot of people welcoming you. Susan from Georgia.
Yay, thank you. I'm so happy all of you guys are here. This is so much fun. I love it.
We have Cynthia Rose from California. Deb is here. Deb Wood, she's here.
This is tea, by the way.
Okay. No, we're good right now, Leslie. So I think they just want to hear what you have to say. So let's move on. I think they probably want to know, what is your creative process?
You know, creative process for me is, I think, first off, is being inspired, as I was speaking about. So many things inspire me. I might find it could be a piece of fabric. It could be a group of words. It could be, for me, if you know me and you know my work, it's really about the symbolism behind a lot of the things. And I've studied the Asian symbolism for probably over 17 years or so. And so that really speaks to me. After I am inspired by something, then I love to do research. I love to find out more about whatever it is that I'm interested in. That's a big part. So I might go back into history to even find out a little bit more about things. And when I speak about my pieces, I'll kind of talk about that too. I also think very three-dimensionally, but I will do a quick thumbnail sketch, and it truly is like a stick figure. And for me, I find out if I draw the whole thing out and I get too specific with it, then the piece is done. So if it's on the paper that I've drawn it in that as a two-dimensional piece, then it's finished. And so then I can't make it as a three-dimensional piece. So I need to stay very open and very loose with it. So that's why I do the sketching first. And then I'll pull my fabrics or my textures, because I work in paper also. I'll pull all those things and get like a palette together. And then I go straight to paper and draw my patterns out from there. And then I do a lot of draping and a lot of seeing how things will work around just using the paper. And then I do cut out my pattern, and then I go to fabric after that, and then I do template. So I draw straight onto the paper, or from the paper onto the fabric, and then cut and sew.
Yeah, that's right.
I find too that, like I was saying, three-dimensional, remember talking with hands, three-dimensional, how I think. And so that's my voice, and that's how I translate things.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you work with the paper and doing your patterns. I do the same thing, and having to sort through the fabric and making sure the colors blend together. It's a process, and it's a fun process. I mean, I like the whole process myself.
I love the whole process too. And, you know, initially, a lot of times I pull out my palette, and as I'm working with the fabric, it might not drape the way I want it. It might not, I'm sure you understand this.
Yes, I do.
It might not react the way, so then it's stitched, you know, and I get something else to replace it. So.
Right. I have a question here. This is from Nona.
Oh, hi Nona.
She wants to know where you.
Yes, I am actually from Denver, Colorado. I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and I still live here. I've lived out of the state before, but I am a Western girl living in Denver, Colorado. Do I have an accent?
Yeah, just a little bit, but they say I have an accent too. So.
Yeah.
So Leslie, I know that you do a lot. I know you work on your kickboxing. I don't know if the ladies have seen you do your kickboxing.
Yeah.
So how do you create and balance this with your art life? I know you do a lot, and you're getting ready to start doing also yoga. You're going to start training to be a yoga trainer, right?
Right. I'm going to become, well, I have a big date coming up in May. I'm getting married. So, and then after that, I am going to become a yoga instructor. I've been doing yoga for a long time. And it was one of those things that I just went, oh, yeah, I should be an instructor. So, and I've taught doll making. So I thought, why not be a yoga instructor too? And so that, for me, I have really, I would say in the last 3 years, really come to understand for myself the mind, body, and soul, and really pushing the envelope and working, well, like in the kickboxing, it is a really hard workout. It's a tough workout. And even in my yoga practice, pushing myself with that. And I feel that when you push yourself in one aspect of your life, then you'll end up pushing yourself in other aspects of your life. So if I push my body to do the most that it's able to do, then, and I push my mind, like right now I'm taking a course on Carl Jung's theories of the alchemy of symbolism, whatever that means. So that, I'm in that online class with a bunch of people who are masters and doctors in psychotherapy and stuff. And but I love it because, I love symbolism and I love Carl Jung. So I'm kind of struggling along with it, but I feel like I'm pushing myself. And so I think that every year it's so good to take one thing and push yourself to your limit, because then the mind and the body, pushing both of those for myself, then can't help but push my soul, which can't help but push my art to be better.
I perfectly agree with that. I'm always looking for new things to learn. And of course, now it's so easy with the online. You can just about take anything online and be a part of a group and learn so much. And that's it. You need to stretch yourself. Absolutely. I agree.
We're all connected, and it's, our world has become so much smaller. I mean, even like us, like talking right now, yay. Like the Carl Jung class that I'm taking, it's out of South Africa. I mean, what would have been my chances of finding that, here? So
yes.
I love that. I love that we get to reach out to one another and communicate with one another.
Well, that's why this show has become so important, because I felt like we just needed to bring the artists a little closer to us. We have people from all over the world and do not get the opportunity to meet artists like you or any of the other guests that I bring in. They're just, what's the chances of coming all the way from China or even as close, like Sandy, she's in Alaska and it's tough for her to leave. So I think this just, like you said, it just brings us a little closer. I have a couple of questions here. Let's see.
Throw them at me. Make them hard. Come on.
Well, Fredo is waving at you. He's from California.
Hey, hi.
Okay, and we have Tanya. She says she wants to see some of your works and speak on them. And Tanya, we're going to do that shortly. Leslie's all geared up for that. So she's been anticipating this interview all week.
Looking forward to it. Excited about it. Yeah.
Susan Monroe wants to know if you're going to be teaching, and I'll post this up for you. Yes.
Yes. I am working with Adele, and we're doing Lulu Bloom Dragonfly right now, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Or should I talk about that now?
No, we'll wait till the end. We'll talk about it at the end.
So yes, and my big thing with the e-patterns was technically challenged Leslie Mullen, and now I got a new printer that puts it right into a PDF. So all I need to do is kind of reformat some of my patterns to fit into that scale. So Adele and I are yes, we are working on it together. Yay!
Yay. Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun trying to get all this technology down too. So yeah, we've had our challenges this week, but we got through them. So here we go. Let's see if I have any more questions. Okay. Let me put this up for you. This is Susan. I'll put this up for you, Leslie. Okay.
Would you please talk about how you design eyes? Oh, yes, Susan. I hand paint my eyes on my dolls. I'm a big, true believer in that. How can you make your art as original as possible? And how can I have my hand, my touch on everything that I have? So my eyes are either inset with wooden beads, and then I paint the wooden beads once they're inset, or a lot of my heads are sculpted in clay, and then I cover it with fabric, and then I paint right on top of the fabric. And so, believe it or not, I use folk art acrylic paints. It's like they work really beautifully for me with the smallest, tiniest little brushes, and I wear 2 pairs of readers to see these little things. And I keep trying to get stronger and stronger ones, but anyway. And so I do a layering technique. So, and I'll just kind of briefly cover that. What I do is I start out with a gray paint, and that is to create a shadow, an instant shadow within the eye, because our eyes are curved. And then I come in and I paint the color of the iris, and I'll put some coloring in that. I'm pretty detailed with that. That's about maybe 4 layers right there. A pupil, and then I'll do some highlighting on it, maybe come in with a little bit of metallic paint at the end, and then I'll do a gloss. I don't use fingernail polish. I know a lot of people will use that. I find that it yellows over the year and possibly can crack. I live in a really dry climate, so it will show up here quicker than maybe in a humid climate. So I'll use like something that is made for acrylic paint. You know, there's a lot of glosses out there. I have switched back and forth over the years with glosses. So that will be, and that's about maybe 3 or 4 coats of gloss over it so you get a nice shiny eye.
Thanks, Leslie. We have some more questions coming in. Here's one from Beth. She wants to know, what's your favorite textile? What do you prefer to work in?
Boy, Beth, that's a good question. I would say I probably hands down love silk, you know, but I like silk in different weights. I use silk crepe, a matte silk crepe for the bodies of my dolls. And then I also love using vintage kimono. I use a lot of that, which is mostly silk. And then I use Dupioni. Dupioni silk is really fabulous because it has such a nice hand or stiffness to it. So you can make it really stick up or do what you want. It's just really wonderful to work with. And then, of course, I use Chinese brocades. And I love the brocades. They're heavier fabric to work with, but they're really, really beautiful.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie. And we have Rachel that wants to know, what is your favorite medium to work with?
Boy, and this one is, I am really tossed between 2. I love clay and I love fabric. I love both of those. I like them together. Fabric on its own, I find, is so incredibly wonderful because how to take a flat surface and to create it into a 3-dimensional surface is just magic to me. I just think that is so cool. And then sometimes I want more detail with my pieces, and so I sculpt the head in clay and then I cover it with fabric. So for me, they really, those 2 are my top, and I don't know if I just feel like they marry each other really, really well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was doing cloth for a long time, and then I switched over to polymer. But yeah. Of course, my favorite part is the costuming. I still have my hands in the fabric, so that never leaves, does it?
Yeah. So, and I want to say one thing about you know, for me in particular, and costuming, because I love the costuming so much. It's just it's my favorite part, and especially since I grew up sewing, and mostly sewing clothes, and then spreading out. I don't know if you guys have done this, but like I would get a pattern from McCall's and a pattern from Butterick and put them together to make a different one. And then by the time I was in high school, I was designing my own clothes. And so becoming a doll maker ended up kind of becoming a fashion designer on a smaller scale.
Yes.
One thing that I really learned, and this was when I applied to be a member of NIADA, is that the entire piece really, really matters. And so I would always blast my way through the body so I could get to the costuming. And I had to really slow down and become more mindful and reflective of what I'm doing with the body. And this has been many years now. And so now I'm finding that I am really enjoying doing the body more, because I think a lot of us are fashion designers at heart for the costuming. So I just feel that slowing down, and I've slowed down my whole process, and it's really made me think about it. And that's kind of a long answer to your question.
Well, Fredo has a pretty lengthy question. I'm going to read it because it's going to cover up our whole screen. He says, how do you handle time management when you have many things going on to ensure that you get to do all the things that you want to do day-to-day basis?
Oh, that's really great. So I, believe it or not, I was in the dental field for 14 years. And when in that, I really learned time management. And so what I do will be block my time. So I will give myself at least a 2-hour block, maybe a 3-hour block, so I can really concentrate on something. So like my day goes something like this: is I get up and I always go for a walk in the morning. And that walk for me is not so much exercise, but it is just a mindfulness and coming into myself and clearing my head for the day. And when I have that, I feel like my whole day goes so much more smoothly. Then I come back, I eat breakfast, and while I'm eating breakfast, I answer emails, and then I get to go jump right into my work. And so I've prepared myself from the night before, and I have everything ready. I have all my tools at hand, everything that I'm going to need for that moment, and so that I can get as much done. And so I will take that time, and then possibly, at noon or so, I'll break it. I have to have food all the time, so I'll do that, or I'll go to yoga practice, and that's only an hour, and it's only 5 minutes away, so I'm very fortunate with that. And then I come back and I work till about 3, and I'll take a little break there, and then I work again till about 6. So, being an artist, you have to be committed to it. That's just the way it is. And no, don't count your hours and how much you're making per hour, because that will just throw you. So, think of your inspiration. And so I am pretty regimented about my schedule, and and the beautiful thing again about having my studio at home now is that I can eat dinner and even come back in and work for a little bit, or at least catch up with another email or follow up on something. And then, like I said, at the end of that day, I always get everything straightened and organized. You can't see my hands moving, can you? I'm talking with my hands. So get everything organized, and I get everything prepped. So when I come back here in the morning, I'm ready to go. So I'm super organized, but that is how I can do this and fit in everything else, and planning a wedding too. So yeah.
Okay, Leslie, thank you. We have Katie Jones that is asking, I'll put this up. I think it won't cover everything up. She just wants to know, about you switching back and forth from cloth to clay.
What prompted this decision, I think, was well. Let me clarify something. Only my heads are in clay, and then the rest of the body is all cloth. Although that will be changing, because now I'm going to be doing some new dolls. I'm really enthralled with insects right now, so there'll be women, and their heads will be clay, hands will be clay, feet will be clay, but the rest will be cloth. And what prompted this decision is I was needle sculpting a lot of my cloth pieces, and I just wanted something that was maybe a little more defined. And then, so I started sculpting in clay many, many years ago. And then thought, well, I had been doing overlays on top of cloth with cloth, and I thought, well, I can do the same thing with clay. So I sculpted a head in clay and then overlaid it with the cloth, and it worked out so beautifully. And then I could retain my feel of a cloth doll and then get the detail that I wanted. I've also jumped into ball jointing in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, so I can have a head that is clay that can be ball jointed inside of it on a cloth body, and then it's still a cloth overlay on the face. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, I think you're doing great, Leslie. I know they appreciate all the answers you're giving them. And we have, well, she told me that I couldn't call her Patricia unless I was a nun.
Well, I know who that is. Yeah.
So I told her, no, I wasn't a nun today. So we're going to call her Pat today. She wants to know, who were your doll art mentors and if you're self-taught.
Hey, I would say I am self-taught. There's so many countries in the world that are so fortunate to have schooling for dolls and art dolls. But here in the U.S., it's much harder. You were able to maybe possibly go take a class from somebody. But I found that initially what I did is I went to the library. I had artistic background already, and I had been sewing, and I had color theory understanding, so that really helped a lot. And what I did initially is I went to the library and just got books and just kind of started perusing them and picking out information. And then, believe it or not, the dental background came greatly in, because just the use of hands and the use of tools and materials, like pouring, because now I could make sculpt a head in clay, and then I can make a mold out of it and then pour it up. And I had already had that experience behind me. So that, I feel like everything in life is so connected. For mentor, I would say in my beginnings of cloth was really Akira Blount, and she was a blessing to all of us. And this was probably, 28 years ago or so that maybe even a little bit longer, that I was starting to kind of figure out what needle sculpting was, not really quite there. I was missing a couple things, and I was brand new into this, and I didn't know anybody. And I saw that Gloria Weiner, Mimi Weiner, bless her heart too, she had a class with Akira Blount, so I signed up for it, not knowing even what I was getting into, and just flew myself out there and took the class. Didn't know anybody in the class, and it was such a wonderful experience to actually take a class with somebody of that caliber at that time. So she was a huge mentor for me and my work, and was always so kind and gracious to me too. And I have to put a good shout out also to Eleanor Peace Bailey in the cloth world, because I took classes from her also, and just learned the fun of it and the whimsy of it. And really, I think that she brought cloth doll making to the forefront for all of us, cloth doll makers.
Yes, she has. She's something else. She's an interesting lady. Okay, we have Shirley here, wants to know the fabric. What cloth do you use on the overlay of the fabric of the faces?
That's great. In my teaching and in my classes, I usually use a very, very fine cotton knit. It has a lot of play in it, and I find my students can work with it really, really well. And then, so the knit works initially really fantastic, because there's a lot of forgiveness in it. And then what I will do with my students is I will switch them to using a woven cloth, like a muslin type of cloth, and then turn it on the bias. So, and I think you guys all know what that means. So you have regular fabric and you kind of turn it like triangularly, and then you get a lot more stretch with it, and a lot more play with it. And then what I use, well, then I would, let me just throw this out. My next step would be for you to take that muslin or cotton, woven cotton, and turn it on the straighter grain, and you'll find that it reacts much differently than when you have some give in it. There's really no give in it. And then what I use on my dolls, on my one-of-a-kind pieces, is I use a silk crepe. Originally, I got it from Japan, and now I found a source here in the United States where I can get it. And there's not a lot of give with it, so there's some seaming work that has to do usually in the back of the head. But I love the challenge of it. I think it's great.
Okay. Thanks, Leslie. Now we have Beth. She is, here, I'll put this up for you. She wants to know if it's difficult for you to market your dolls, and how did you get started on that, on your marketing?
That is like such a fantastic question. Marketing on dolls. I'm going to put a shout out to Adele for that, because
thank you.
I've been around for a long time, and luckily I have been able to do it through word of mouth, or just advertising my pieces like on Facebook or on my blog. For marketing my dolls, right now what I have been doing is writing blog postings on my process. You know, I you want to give enough information that you find it intriguing, but you don't want to give so much information that you're teaching a class, because there's a fine line with that too. And I'm not trying to be selfish or stubborn with that, but there's a place for learning, and then there's a place for inspiring. And so I find that the more people understand my thoughtfulness and my mindfulness behind my pieces, and understanding how I come to my color selection and that type of thing, really helps sell my pieces. It's, you know, it's the story behind it, and it gives the doll or the piece that you're creating. It can be even a painting. It gives it some layers and some depth and some understanding, so that people can relate to it better.
And also, Leslie, don't you find that consistency helps if you're consistent with putting your information out there? Because that's what I always talk about in the marketing end is you can't just do it 1 week and then forget about it for a month and then come back, because you lose your momentum. So it's a consistency. It's part of the whole process. I always say you create, you got to market it. You know,
yeah, you know. And I talked to one of I actually don't photograph my own work. I have photographers do it, and I had a really great photographer for a while, and we talked about marketing and that type of thing. And so really what it comes down to is, and this will be really shocking to you, but it's like 25% of the time is what you're creating, and 75% of the time is what you're marketing. And that's really what it is. I mean,
you are so right.
It's being an artist is a tough life. It's a tough way to make a living. It's fulfilling and it's wonderful, and I feel fortunate that I get to do it. But you have to really market the heck out of everything in any way that you can. And I also feel like, and I just want to say thank you for Adele for everything that you're doing and helping.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Because she's great at marketing. So I'm jumped on to her site also so that I can learn. You know, even me, you know, a person that's been around doing this like probably 28, 30 years, there's still, it's a whole new world out there too, because now you have online and you have, you know, it's not like you're just sending a press packet to a gallery anymore. There's, you have online websites, you have your online portfolio. There's so much to do. So.
Yeah, you have to approach it differently. I mean, the basics are there. Marketing is marketing. I started out old school, but still that foundation is there, but I still had to relearn or really work my way into the digital world because it was just approached differently. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. I love it, and it's, thank God I love it. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Leslie, what is the most difficult decision you've had to make in your art career?
Oh boy, there have been two, and I think this kind of relates back to the motivation and the inspiration. I'm going to talk with the inspiration first, and the soulfulness of your pieces. I was asked to teach at a conference and to create a doll, and of course they chose Asian for me because obviously that's what I do, and so I created my Asian piece as an animal. Which I loved, and I felt very inspired, and the piece went together beautifully. It was just a meant to be. And I sent the picture in, and the person running the conference wrote back and said, oh, no, animals, we can't do animals. Okay, can we do it so that can we do it so that we could change out the head? It could be a human head, but it had paws. So I said, and instead of answering her right away, I sat back and I said, give me some time, let me think about this overnight and I'll get back to you. And because I didn't want to do a knee-jerk reaction, and I really wanted to be thoughtful about it. And so I took my time and I really thought about it overnight and came to the decision, which was hard, that I said, no, it can't have a human head. It is an animal. That's what it is. And, but because I listened to myself and I listened to it, my class was the first class to fill up, and it has been one of my best-selling patterns ever since then. So stay true to yourself. Stay true to what your heart is telling you. Stay true to your gut feeling. It's so easy in this life now to be swayed by what's going on out there in the world, but stay true to yourself. Then I would say my second most difficult decision is something that I just did recently. And it's the practical matter, the motivating, which was money. And I got a very, very nice commission, one of my very high-end dolls, a commission for it. And I got the deposit, and I started speaking with the client by email, and it was not going well. It was not going well. And so I had to really sit back and think about this. And I will tell you that I have had enough experience that this was to be of the client. It was a character of the client. And I've had two of those in my past that have ended up with a turbulent ending. Let's just say that. So I recognized the signs and saw that they were coming, and I graciously bowed out and returned the deposit because I knew that I could not create what the client wanted or expected soulfully in themselves, and my soul, we weren't connecting. And so I returned the money, and at this point right now, with getting married and doing all these fun things, money would be very helpful, but it wasn't the right decision. I had to give the client freedom to find somebody that could meet their purposes, and me the freedom to be able to walk away.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I think all of us has had something in their art career like that. And we just have to not react right away, but think about it and come back with a good answer, because you have to feel good about yourself, whether you move forward or you don't move forward,
Right. And it is, as an artist, it is a hard decision to turn money away, because you need every penny to make it in this, like people are like, how long does it take you to make a doll, and how much do you make an hour and stuff like that. And I said, well, I think right now I'm up to like $2.35 an hour, because it is an act of, it's a calling in life.
Yeah, it's a passion. It runs through us, and we just have to keep feeding that passion, huh, Leslie?
And hopefully others, and hopefully, we can bring joy and happiness and reach others with it too.
That too, absolutely. So I'm going to turn the screen over to you so you can go ahead and show them some of your lovely work. I know they're just dying to see all of what you have behind you. I know they're probably trying to peek around you and see what you're doing.
Over there. Yeah, I'm going to start with the hats.
All right, just give me a minute. I'm going to lower this here. Okay, it's all yours, Leslie.
Thank you. Hi, yay. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to actually start with Lulu Bloom, and this is the doll that we're making online. And so she's she's a long doll here, and so with Lulu Blue, what we're doing is she's all cloth. The whole thing is cloth. It's a muslin, and then what you learn in this class is how to needle sculpt the face. And then she has, can you see that? She has inset eyes that have been hand painted, so the wooden beads that are hand painted. With her, what I wanted to talk about was a lot about dragonfly lore and balance of life and that type of thing, symbolism. And then you learned how to hand dye. We're actually right on this right now, hand dyeing, so hand dyeing the hair. These are paper. Isn't this beautiful paper? So this is paper wings that have been stiffened and we hand dyed. The body is actually hand painted using the folk art paints. And then you can see her dress. This is like some beautiful fabric that I found. It's a silk and cotton fabric, and we dyed this too. So this is Lulu Blue, and so this is my online class that I'm doing with Adele. And so with that, I'm going to just jump right over to, many of you guys have seen her. This is Queen Anne, so she's been kind of hanging out here. And I actually took her outfit off, her dress off, so that you could see she's actually jointed. Her whole thing is jointed. She was designed after a wooden doll, and I love taking things from different mediums and seeing how I can translate them into cloth. I'm going to show you her jointing on her legs because I find this really interesting, and you guys might find this really fun. I'm sorry to expose her like this, but anyway, so this is her jointing, and so they usually carve it with wood, and then they inset pegs in, and so I figured out how to do that in cloth and how to translate that into cloth. So this, Adele and I are talking about doing this as an online class coming up later this year, perhaps. So let's talk about some hats now. I have here, so you guys are familiar with my story hats. They started out as my dolls, and then I jumped into bigger pieces. So these are like freestanding art pieces. And this one is Lotus, and Lotus is about perseverance. So here's that Dupioni fabric that I love to use here. And then here's the Chinese brocade. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a silk. So this whole hat is done in silk. What I love to do too is I love to look at how my pieces are put together, how the fabric and how the pattern reads. And so I don't know if you guys can see this, maybe if I turn it a little bit more towards the light. There's a little emblem on here. And so what I did is when I was doing the quilting, I stitched around this emblem. And then what I did is I matched an emblem for the lining on the same side so that they would match up. So the stitching would be on either side showing the emblem. And then hand-dyed silk on the interior of this one. Now my display is gonna. So the next one is, oh, well, slow down. Let's do Lilly. Lily's Love. And so here's Lilly, and here's the interior of Lilly. That's really beautiful too, all hand dyed, again with the Dupioni. This is actually, I don't know if you can see this, this is a silk that has more of a cotton feel to it, it's kind of like a linen weave silk that I love. And then because I do Asian inspired and not replicating, I do pull in fabrics from, this is a Chinese hat, but I pulled in this piece of vintage kimono Japanese fabric. So I do cross my cultures, but I feel as an artist, as long as I'm not replicating and I'm inspired, I feel that I can do that, as long as it's tastefully done. And then dragon, and dragon is courage. I love this piece, vintage kimono. I kind of gave him the shape of a dragon's body for his hat. And then this is all vintage kimono pieces in here. The Chinese brocade. I don't know if you can see this. On the inside here, there's a phoenix. This is in the Chinese lore. Dragon is male and phoenix is female. So you want the balance of it. So dragon on the outside with phoenix on the inside. Adele, you tell me on time too. So, oh, thank you, Susie. Thank you. I'll just grab these guys really quick. And then I'll get to some dolls too. And so this one is hair. And hair is awakened longevity. So this one was, I love the animals. I just think they're really fun there. So this is very, I don't duplicate, I don't replicate, but what I do is I get inspired. So I take a lot of the legend and lore from Chinese and then create my own pieces and my own designs. So I love this fabric. Believe it or not, I got this fabric in Holland. So that's kind of fun. And the interior is a black, it has like a swirling flower design on the inside. So that is hair. Vintage kimono ears here. And then this is tiger. Tiger is really fun too. Tiger's about protection. And so this was one of my really fun pieces that I love here. Interior is really beautiful. Can you see that? It's really, really pretty. Here again, I make my own fringes on everything. I make my own tassels on everything. This is a lot of just a different, like heavy embroidery yarns that I use. Silk linens, all kinds of things to create his whiskers. And did I get everybody? Oh, Happy Dog. Happy Dog is, what is happy? Devotion. Thank you, Sandy. So Happy Dog, here's the interior. This is really fun here. And here's the brocade, and then here's the pom-pom that I made out of all the different things. And you can see I love creating my design and then stitching, and the stitching will follow the design of the pattern too. So that makes it really, really fun. I've done women's hats. Initially people were saying to me, oh man, I want to wear I don't have the goldfish hat here, but you can see the picture of the goldfish in the back. I would wear the goldfish hat. And I'm thinking, I would never wear a goldfish hat, but people really want to wear them. And so I've been jumping out and now creating hats for women and they look fantastic. I'm like, wow, I can't believe that. So you never know things, sometimes you have to listen to your soul, but thank you, Cindy. Thank you. You have to listen to your soul. So you have to, but you have to listen to your clients too. You have to listen to what people want. And if you feel that it will work, then go ahead and do it for them also. It's a good thing. Let's talk about, and Pat, you'll recognize this. This is the one I made for myself. I went through, like 3 years ago, I said I went through a great transition in life, and I really kind of lost my intrigue for making dolls. And so my first step out into it was I felt like I was going through a transition, and I was really starting to come out of myself and back into the world again and able to meet the world. And I thought, oh, it's like coming out of a cocoon. It's like starting to come out. And I thought, oh, a butterfly, like a butterfly. And then I realized that, no, I'm not like a butterfly. I have a little dust on me. I'm a little dinged up. And so I started looking at moths. And the wonderful thing is when I start looking at the symbolism for moths, it is that basically that she is shown each night that her needs will be met. And that was such a great faith step for me. And so I created these moth dolls. And so here, this doll here is, this is the one that I did. So these are the ones that are sculpted in clay first, and then covered with the silk fabric, the crepe, and then hand painted eyes. I don't know if you can see that. And so I love this because she's all jointed. Her whole body is jointed. And what she represents here is her kimono represents her cocoon. And so I used different fabrics, and you can't, so it's a silk and a gauze that I hand dyed. And the really cool thing is this actually feels like a cocoon. So I just think that is so cool. And then back here are her wings. This is Luna Moth. And her wings are from Japanese kimono that I embroidered around the top. And then here is the interior of hers with, this is actually the backside of Japanese kimono. I wanted something kind of subdued for her. So this is Luna Moth, and this one is the one that I made for myself to keep. And then thank you, Shirley. She's really fun. Thank you. And then this from there, if you look on the Artist to Artist Talk show website, I have my pieces on there of my past pieces that I've done with my story hats and my fairy dolls and those type of things. And this was my next direction after the moth. I wanted to do a raven. I believe that the raven is my spirit guide, my animal spirit guide, and they always show up for me, always. So I wanted to do a doll that is a raven. So this one is a raven. This is a hanging piece here. And so she's done totally out of vintage kimono that I hand dyed. And then what I did with her is looked up her symbolism, raven, and basically what it is one of the legends that I really, really loved a lot and that spoke to me is the first bird that Noah let off the ark to go find land was a raven. And the raven, when it left the ark, was white. And when it came back, it was heartbroken that it couldn't help mankind, and it turned black. So what I did is I have her starting to turn black. So her feet and around her neck, you can see around her neck, she's starting to turn black. So I love the symbolism and I love the lore behind that. Raven also means balance. And so when I was designing this piece initially, I started with her pants, and I don't know if you can see it, but there is like a imprint of birds on this one. They're actually cranes. And I wanted that to show. So I was going to design a full kimono, but then I thought, oh, this fabric is so beautiful. So as the designing is going, I decided to cut her kimono shorter. And so it wings out here, and then it wings out into her tail in the back, and her sleeves became her wings. And then the interior is all dyed also. So a lot of different techniques gone into, thank you. I love that too. Thank you, Deb. So this piece was very special to me. I also did a swallow, and the swallow is in a very good home with somebody else. And the last piece that I have with me, I'm just so happy that I have some pieces here. Usually I don't have anything. This was my, I don't know if you guys, thanks, Pat. I love the raven too, obviously, huh? Yeah. My last piece that I want to talk about is one of my first animal dolls that I did. And this was the original one. And so this one is, geez, I'm going to say over 20 years old, but I kept it. And since then I've done many, many of them. And many, many years ago, I went, thank you, Kathleen, thank you. I find symbolism really gives your piece another layer. You know, we all love to create beautiful things or things that are meaningful to us, but what's another behind that to push your piece forward? What's your motivation? What's your inspiration? I think that when you have that story behind your pieces without actually having to write it out, I think that as you're making it, it really helps bring that piece forward a bit more. So this one is, this is the last piece here. So this is Wind in My Hair. And as I was saying, I was at a conference many, many years ago with my friend Joyce, and we went to, it was in Baltimore, and we went to the American Visionary Art Museum, which if you have a chance to go to in your lifetime, go. It's outsider art, which means it's untrained artists, usually from people under psychiatric care or people that are untrained artists, folk art type of thing. And the name of the exhibit was Wind in My Hair, like in hair. And then I took that saying wind in my hair, and I thought, hair, H-A-R-E, hair. I have made many, many of these guys in motion. So hair's in motion. My face has changed a little bit over the years. This one I kept. So I've done him on skates, in planes. My friend Carol helped me create planes that actually are large hanging pieces where the rabbit straddles it, on skis, on bikes. So there you go. So those are my pieces. Deb, what was that piece you did? Where did you want to switch the head? Oh, yeah, you know, the doll that I had. Oh, I can actually, I have her. Just a second, I'll show you. So I, you know, out of professional professionalism, I'm not going to say where the conference was or anything, but I will show you the doll. How about that? So this is Meow Meow Neko. So this is an Asian cat. So she has this like, the one thing that I love about the Japanese that they do is their kimonos are all so beautifully done. And then there's always like a little surprise. There's something that's off a little bit, which I love. So I really look at like Chinese color palettes and Japanese color palettes, and I find them fascinating because being born in the US, we have our idea of what colors go together. So I did this for so many years that I love to incorporate a feel, a flavor of those palettes into my piece. So this is Meow Meow Neko. So she's really fun. And then I also did one that is a rabbit. And someday soon I have one that's a teddy bear. Might be coming out with that too. You know, we try to do everything we can do. So vintage kimono here. So this is Meow Meow Neko. And that's my show and tell. Any other questions from anybody?
Oh, Leslie, that was wonderful. I know everybody enjoyed to hear about your artistic journey there. Let's see if I have any questions here. Oh, someone here. I'll put this one up for you.
Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you can. I should have. I think she's right here in my closet. Just give me 2 seconds.
Well, I hope everybody's enjoying the show. We're just having a great time and just love all of Leslie's pieces. And she's such an inspiration. And for me, it's just such a treat because I tend to work a lot in those type of fabrics as well. So it just it's just right up my alley, Leslie.
For that, yeah. So, woo! Thank goodness I'm organized because she was in my closet. Okay. So Ling Li, here's Ling Li. So here's Ling Li, and so this is, believe it or not, Japanese cotton that I used on her. Needle sculpted face with the inset eyes that we do, and then we do an overlay on top of her with the cotton knit, so that's nice to use. And then I used horsehair for her in respect for the Mongolians. So I kind of incorporated that type of thing. So this is Ling Li here. So Adele and I are talking about doing this as an online class too. I have to rewrite the whole thing and I have to remake one. So, you know, that takes a little bit longer. But I also, Ling Li was so popular that I ended up doing Shunwu. So Shunwu Spring Rain is, this is her sister. So these dolls, I love doing them. And then those were so popular that we ended up creating a doll carrying case. Thank you, Pat. So we did, and I, you see these a lot in the Chinese world, and I just like fell in love with them. So I had to have one hanging on the side. They're little bags where they carry little things in on their garments. So and then of course handmade tassels out of different fabrics, and and little handmade tassel. And then here the interiors in this with a little quilted like mattress for her so that she can be in there. So that's the little carrying case. Yeah, no, I do. I tell the story of my pieces a lot, like where my inspiration comes from. I usually blog about that. So I will take you through like the different steps and the different processing. So each doll might be like a blog, like 4 blogs or 5 blogs, depending on how long. I'll even show the process of like dyeing it. Then again, I said I'm not really teaching it, but I am, you know, sharing the experience and sharing how I do it. I love the stories that go behind everything. So I just hope that this helps. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. I just feel like the more that you can tell about your pieces and the more story that you have and understanding about what you're doing, your inspiration can't help but make your pieces speak and connect with others. I think that's most important.
Well, that is absolutely true, Leslie. I think we always have to have some sort of connection between the artist and the piece, and then that connection needs to be for the viewer. And I think that helps to market, when we're talking about sales now, that helps to market the piece and to be able to sell it. I absolutely agree. Mary's saying that she's enjoyed the presentation.
Oh, that's CL is cousin Leslie. That's cousin Mary. CM. Hi. I'm so happy that you're here. Yay. Yay.
So, Leslie, so where do you see yourself in your art in the next 5 years?
You know, that's a great question, because we all can be so goal-oriented and push ourselves. And I will tell you, I make short-term goals. I find my inspiration, and sometimes my inspiration comes in like 7 or 8 pieces. And so I have to do my little sketches and write everything down. For the next 5 years, let me say this. Over the last 3 years, I have really, really learned to not have such tight control over where my pieces are going and what I'm doing with my art, because that opens the door to more exploration and more experiences. So really in the next 5 years, I find myself living mindfully in the present. Really being there, really listening to myself, really listening to what my voice wants to, my soul's voice wants to share with you. It's a conscious life. That's what I'm looking at. And to just let my life happen. You have to have some guidance, you know, goals. You can't just go out there and expect everything to come to you. You have to have some motivation and some inspiration to find your path. But I have learned not to be so tight and rigorous, and not, because then you make something and it'll take its own path, and then that will lead to something else. So I find that the biggest thing in curing fear of where am I going or what am I doing is curiosity. You know, let your curiosity rise and that path. And like I said, I do all this research, and that brings on more curiosity and then more inspiration. So that's kind of a roundabout way of answering.
Well, yes, we're never know, right? We just have to live in the moment, right? Here's a question from Deb.
Oh, where do I sell my work? Right now I am in a very part of my career that's really super fortunate, that I sell my work through myself. I was in galleries for years and years and years, and then was able to be word of mouth and sell my work. My new line that I'm coming out, which is the insect line, which I'm so excited about doing. Probably won't be able to start that till June. Those I probably might start to look back at galleries again. They do take a cut, and it's a healthy cut, so you have to think about that when you're making your pieces. It's usually 40 to 50%. They do earn every penny of it because they're doing the marketing and they're housing it for you and doing the electricity and everything. And they're staffing, so they do earn it. So if you're looking at galleries and working with galleries, think about what your time is and what you can do, and also what the market will bear too. There's a lot of different things like that.
Right.
So
let's see here. Let's see if there's any more questions. I do have a question. They want to know where your blog. So I'm going to post your blog right now, Leslie. Here we go. If you cannot read it, don't worry. I will repost it in the comments. But maybe you want to tell them a little bit about your blog, Leslie?
My blog is called FromTheseHandsBlog.blogspot.com. And I chose the words from these hands because I really wanted to show you what my hands do. And so that's why I love to break down. I talk about color theory. I talk about, all different types of things, different materials, usually pertaining to the piece that I'm working on. But I love showing all of that, including the symbolism and the inspiration with the piece. So please join me. I just started up again. I took a little hiatus from it, but now I'm so inspired, especially with this today too. So I will start posting. I usually posted once a week, and I kind of shied away from it, but I will be back up and running again.
That's great, Leslie. We'll go ahead and repost the blog in the comments because I know it's a little hard to read on the screen. And you also have your website, and I'll post that here as well.
And that is
Rudy.com,
ROOTIE, Rudy.com, and that shows you the full body of all my work. So you can see everything there.
Right. Let's see here. We have a couple of comments.
Thank you. I have fallen in love with you too. Yes, I find that we as artists, we reach out through our work. We reach out, and so sometimes you don't really have this wonderful thing that Adele has brought us to today, that we actually get to meet the people and get to know who they are. And you can read it, and you can, but if you hear it out of the mouth of the artist, I think you get a better understanding of their personality too, and how they feel about things. So, yeah.
Well, this has just been great, Leslie. I know everybody appreciates your insight on your work, and we're just thrilled to have you, and also to have you teaching online at A4 Artistic. I know everybody was so surprised to see you, and it's just been really, everybody has really enjoyed the class. Someone is also asking here if you have any books that have been published.
I don't. I have the one book that is behind me that was self-published. This one, Story Hats, and it talks about, it shows pictures of the dolls, of the hats and their symbolism. That is self-published, and I have maybe 4 left, and I'm going to stop after that. And then my next book, these are limited edition series that I'm doing. And I will probably be talking to Adele about publishing and that type of thing. And so I'm hoping to bring out one of my smaller dolls, like the moth dolls, and then some of my larger dolls, the story pet dolls. And who knows what else? We don't know yet. So,
well, for sure, Leslie, you're reaching for the stars. That's great. And Angel wants to tell you.
Oh, thank you, Angel. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I so appreciate all of you being here today. It means the world to me that you've taken time to come and listen to my story and what I have. And thank you very much.
And if anybody's interested in taking Leslie's class, Lulu Blue Dragonfly, that's a mouthful, Leslie. You can take it at aforartistic.com. If you have any more questions, we are just about ready to wrap this up. Anything else you would like to say, Leslie?
I just want to say, Adele, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to us, really. Thank you for including me. I am so honored to be your first guest. I mean, that's a big deal. And it is. So I love everything that you're doing to help the artists and to help the world with this. It really is an artist who's been around for a long time. Like I said, it's a hard way to make a living. You can become isolated because you choose to be or not choose to be. So thank you for bringing us all together. I really, that is something that is so meaningful, and I am so excited to continue working with you. And I think that all of us out there together are going to do really, really beautifully great things. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And I have to say that Leslie and I have crossed paths many times. Many times. In fact, I was telling Leslie the other day that the last piece I finished, for some reason, and I hadn't talked to Leslie in a little while, I picked up a piece of fabric and I kept looking at that fabric and I said, I think I bought this from Leslie several years ago. And I kept working with it and working with it. And I said, I know that I bought this from Leslie several years ago. And the other day when we were talking, we were doing a video conference. I said, Leslie, I think I bought this fabric from you. So I showed her, and I had. And I don't even know how long ago, Leslie. I've had that in my stash for years.
Yes.
I love the color. I think you said it came from India. I think that's what we talked about.
Yes, yeah. And when my studio was outside the home, my landlord at that time took a trip to India every year. And the first year he went, I was joking and I said, well, can I give you my shopping list? And he said, well, actually, I'm going to ask you about that. And I went, really? Are you kidding me? And so I said I wanted the silk with the metal weavings in it. And so he brought home a huge suitcase. And I was fortunate that I had enough that I could split it in half and I could keep half for me, but I could sell the other half so other people. So that fabric is stunningly beautiful fabric to work with.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful to work with, and I'm like you, Leslie. I love silk and I like fine fabrics. I don't care how much they cost. If it gives me what I want, that's what I'm going to use. And here's Lee. She's saying here.
Oh, see, yay! So yay, Lee. We're so happy that you were here and that you were able to share this with us. And I just love this community. It just really, it's touching. It's really, really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Nona's asking about, do you sell fabric? Hold on, I'll put this up.
Yeah, I really don't. And when I'm noticing that my this is starting to go low on the battery, just so you know. So I still don't sell fabric. I have the stash that I have, and who knows, though, I might, you never know. I have access to some kimono fabric for the last time, but I'm not sure how much I will be able to get. So,
okay. Thank you so much, Leslie. I appreciate you being here with us, and it has just been an absolute treat. And we are now officially to the end of our presentation, and we look forward to bringing you more guests to the talk show Artist to Artist. And we will bring you lots and lots and lots of surprises. You just have to stay tuned. Thanks a million, Leslie. It's been wonderful. And we'll talk to you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.